Carrie, can you say hello?
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Well, Carrie, thank you for being with us today. Can you give us a self-introduction?
I sure can. So my name is Carrie Adams. I'm a vice president of marketing and sales effectiveness at a company called Big Iron. I also am an educator. I'm an adjunct faculty member at Creighton University. And I've also been running and operating a few businesses with my husband. So we'll get into some of that here as I start talking, but I'm a very, very busy woman, but I love being busy. It's my favorite thing. So have a great family, husband, 2 daughters. My oldest daughter is in college. She's in Lincoln. My younger daughter turns 16 on Friday, which is terrifying. And then my husband and I have a dog and a couple businesses and keep ourselves very, very busy. I do have a leadership blog that is pretty successful called Leading a Path. You can find that and read that. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Today, I'm here to talk about personal branding. So that's going to be the topic of conversation for today. Just as a disclaimer, there are a lot of different ways that you can define a brand and a personal brand. The one that we're going to talk about today is one that I've cultivated over many, many years in my career. I've been on my professional journey for over 20 years. And this is something that I've taken a long time to put together and develop. And I believe in it. I'm very passionate about it, especially for women. And we'll talk about that. It is a process and it is a journey, but it's well worth it. And that's what we're going to get into today. So next slide, please. So the first thing about a personal brand is that it's personal. It's yours. It's not about becoming someone else. It's not about trying to replicate something that you've seen work for somebody else. It's really about uncovering your most authentic and thoughtful self. So it's not even creating something. It's uncovering what's already there and bringing that forward. One of the themes of this that you'll hear me talk about, when you become that authentic person, when you uncover that authenticity, it builds your confidence and it brings you forward in the easiest way because it's who you are. I know a lot of people say fake it till you make it. I don't love that saying because I think you can really, from a branding standpoint, you really can figure out who you are and how you want to bring that forward. And then it's the realest, easiest thing that you could ever do. Next slide, please. So developing a personal brand, I think it's particularly important for women. There's many, many studies out there and data points around how women tend to be less likely to brag about themselves. They are a lot less likely to talk about themselves, talk about their accomplishments, especially in professional circles. There's a lot of different reasons for that. One of those things is this idea of a confidence gap. I think that when you go through this process, you develop your professional personal brand, it empowers you to showcase your strengths and your skills and your accomplishments. I think in many cases, it helps you overcome biases or stereotypes. And I do think personally, it helps you pave the way for your own recognition, for opportunities and for success in your career, because you're able to put these pieces together. Having that confidence, developing that confidence allows you to be able to do this and be very forward about it. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about my background. I know I shouted out a little bit about it before, but my expertise, my background really is in leadership. It's in coaching. From a professional standpoint, I've been involved in establishing businesses and brands in many, many verticals and many, many environments. I've helped raise millions of dollars of funding. I've helped companies generate billions of dollars in revenue. And that's something I'm very proud of. 2 decades of my career, I've been very, very focused on building and guiding teams. I've been in charge of people since my first job in high school when I was managing in a store that sold athletic apparel. So this is something that I've been doing. I bet my parents would probably tell you I've been bossing people around for much longer than that, but definitely being a part of running and managing teams. Something I'm deeply passionate about is education. So I've had the honor of serving as a professor at Creighton University for 21 semesters, which is crazy to me when I put it in terms like that. I did the math at one point, and it's well over 500 students that I've had come through my classroom. And then 20 years, like I said, of professional soccer coaching experience in the state of Nebraska. I was an athlete myself. And that's something that also continues to be part of my life because it is a passion that I have, and it benefits me in other categories as well. And then, like I said, presently I'm entrusted with the leadership of about 30 individuals. We are growing, so that 30 is going to grow at a thriving $1.5 billion company. And then my husband and I own and operate a couple businesses as well. So a lot going on, but this is a little bit of the foundation of where some of this comes from. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about where this journey began for me. So that is a baby me. That is me back in 2007. That was my very first professional headshot. I had been working for a number of years, but I never had a professional headshot before. This was a time in my career when I was escalating pretty rapidly through various ranks at an organization in Omaha. I was part of an executive development program at this point in time. I got put on a really big project. It was a very important project to the company. It was a kind of a transformative project. I was put on a team with people that I did not know very well. And my approach to this team and my part of being on this team was, you know what, I'm going to be super efficient. I'm going to be very timely. I often worked through lunches. I stayed very busy. When people would email me, I would email them right back. When people would call me, I would answer their questions. Like, I was just the picture of efficiency. And after about a month of me thinking, I'm crushing this, like, this is great. I'm learning, I'm contributing. My manager said to me, you know, you're doing great. So glad you're here. But some of the members of the team are finding you a little antisocial and maybe a little cold was the word that he used. And it broke my heart because here I thought I was doing the right thing and I was showing up in this way that people would appreciate. Wildly opposite to my personality, by the way. I'm a very outgoing person. And I was so disheartened by that feedback because all I wanted to do was show up and add value. And I was going about it in the wrong way. And I decided at that point to really start to look at myself and who I was and what I valued and what I was good at and put those pieces together because who I thought I should be wasn't working. And so I failed pretty fast in that regard. And I love this quote by Brene Brown. Authenticity is a collective of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. And that, although not articulated that well in my brain, was the decision that I made, that I was going to invest time into this process. Next slide, please. So there really isn't a perfect primer for this either. There isn't a one size fits all leader. There are certainly highly valued qualities of different leadership styles, but that doesn't mean that you have to emulate what you've seen successful with other people. This really is about finding out who you are. The world needs all kinds of different leaders and leadership styles. Your job is to just put the pieces together for yourself. Next page, please. So whether you believe it or not, you already have a brand. You already have a brand that's out there in the world. And if you haven't intentionally created that or articulated that in your mind, then what you're working with is probably what I would call an unintentional personal brand. That is an image, a reputation that you inadvertently convey to others through how you behave, how you interact with them. It does encompass your strengths, your values, your goals, and your personality. But it may not be fully defined in your own perception. It may not be identical in every person's mind, which even when we do put together an intentional brand, not everybody reads or values things the same way. And we'll talk about that later. But an intentional brand is genuine. It's the image you purposefully and consistently present to other people. It's rooted in your personal values. It highlights your strongest attributes and puts those things together with aspirations, goals, and principles. And this all becomes the foundation for success. A big part of that is trust, that through this process, you are establishing trust with the people you come in contact with because of that authenticity. So we're going to talk about building an intentional personal brand today. Next slide, please. So like I said, you already have one, whether you're aware of it or not, but it isn't your resume. So it's not the bullets listed on your resume. And your brand does vary some depending on who you're dealing with, who your audience is, but that foundation's already in place. As a leader, as a female leader, when you're recognized and embraced your best qualities and you take time to reflect on your goals, it's going to open that door for you. But it's not just the things that you've accomplished. It's not just the things that you've done, though we will incorporate that into it as well. It's bigger than that. It's a lot bigger than that. Next, please. So I want to talk about my brand, because my brand is something that I've sort of laid out there a little bit, but I want to tell you how I put my brand together. So my brand is action. So my brand is very intentional. So it opens with, to lead with curiosity and energy. I offer a unique perspective and passion for innovation or for innovative solutions. Challenges of change fuel my drive for innovation and growing ideas into something tangible. With integrity, collaboration, and accountability, I forge strong relationships and consistently deliver results. I excel independently, but thrive leading teams to exceptional outcomes. Through intentional leadership, I empower individuals to bring their best selves to work, fostering a growth culture. Embracing adaptability and resilience, I create lasting value for my organization, coworkers, community, and my family. That sounds like a lot, and it is. And I didn't start with that much, but this is 20 years of me putting together these pieces. It is very important to me that I come forward with energy. It is very important to me that I ask questions and remain curious. I typically thrive in environments where there's a lot of change and there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. And I'm absolutely an achiever. I want to achieve results and I want to deliver on them consistently. But I also have this piece where it's not just about growing and winning and developing and all of these things for myself. It's about winning through teamwork and being able to lead people to the next best version of themselves. So it was really important that I capture that piece as well. And at the end of the day, I want to create value, and I want to create value for not just my company and the people within my company, but where I live and the people that I love most, my family. So all of this really at the end of the day is fueled by those really important parts of what I value in my life. And it's a mouthful, but I'm very proud of this. And it's definitely very spot on with who I am. And I would say words that people have used about me as well. I'm seeing a question. Do you want me to answer the question now, Ginger? I can wait. I think you're on mute, Ginger.
Oh, I'll read it now.
Okay.
It's a fun one from
Okay.
Anna. She says, I know my coworkers associate me with a brand, but my brand has changed.
Yes.
How can I train coworkers that my brand has changed? I'm different than I was 5 years ago. I'm married with a baby on the way and a new home.
So that's a great question. So I think, well, first of all, I'm glad that your brand has changed. I think your brand should change as you go. And we're going to talk about kind of the steps. This all sounds great, right? But I'm going to walk you through the steps of how we put these pieces together. But one of the biggest things that I say will influence how people perceive you is your interactions with them. The more that someone can connect with you and connect with this very authentic brand that you have that's evolved over time, the more they're going to see that. And the more that it's the same brand day after day, and it's a different brand than what they've come to experience from you, they're going to start to see that too. So my recommendation is bring that new brand forward in your interactions with them and in your interactions with others that they observe so that they can see that in action. That's going to be the single biggest way that you can change that perception. Next slide, please. I hope that helped. We'll talk more about some of this stuff as we work through these pieces. You might be asking yourself why, like, why does this matter? And just for the record, I don't say brand this much in my life ever. And I don't particularly love that word because I think there's some misnomers to it. But I do think for the sake of this, it's important that we use that word. It's powerful to uncover that brand of who you are. When you understand who you are in words and in specifics, and you can define that, it really gives you this confidence. It gives you this ability to move through the world with a lot of authenticity, with integrity, that this is who I am. And I'm proud of what this is and what this is becoming. It drives deeper relationships with other people. When you're showing up as your most authentic self, They're seeing that. They're interacting with the real you. I have said for years and years, one of the best ways to get your team to produce excellent results is to build a strong team culture and dynamic, because then they're not just doing work. They're doing work for people that they care deeply about and that they don't want to disappoint. It's bigger than themselves. And I think that that's important. So when you're able to come forward with this, you're making a positive impact with the best version of yourself. And it's way easier to do when you have an understanding and a grasp of what that is. And it should change over time. And I'm glad that you recognize that you changed over time. But as we continue to go through the evolutions, what does that mean? And how do I continue to add that or to adopt slightly, what my brand is? So it's a very, very powerful process. Next slide, please. So you're probably asking me then, this is great. You keep talking about this, but how do I start? Where do I begin with this process? As an individual, we've talked about this. You possess a unique set of values, tendencies, experiences, strengths, weaknesses, all of these different things that shape how you are, who you are, the way that you interact with the world and people. So it's not about creating this brand. It's about uncovering one. I say the same thing about businesses when they talk about value propositions. You don't create a value proposition. You have to uncover one. It's already there somewhere. We just have to put the pieces together. So the first step in this is starting with what you value. So start with your values. Next slide, please. So step one, what do you value? Values are things that are inherent to you. They're the foundation of your brand, and they're the foundation of you as a human being. They shape everything about you, how you interact with other people, decisions that you make, how you solve problems. They reflect what matters to you the most, and they're the pillars of you. They come from deep inside of you. They are things that maybe take some work to kind of reflect upon and really articulate. But typically those values are not necessarily coming from somewhere else. You may surround yourself with people that share your values or enhance your values, but really they should be very, very personal. When you lead with this clarity on the values and you bring those things forward, you do inspire other people to do the same. I'm not saying that you have to be like preachy about your values, but your values are the things that drive a lot of who you are. So being intentional about that. And when you're authentic and you're self-aware, that's really the most important piece to this is, okay, I authentically know that these are things that I value. And I'm aware of that now. I can put this on paper. I know that this is true. It does really help you identify what social and professional circles would I be more successful in and would I value and appreciate more because those things are shared. It does give you a lot of power. Next slide, please. So we start with values. The second phase of this process is playing to your strengths, discovering the things that you're good at. And these aren't things that you've done. These are things that inherently you are good at. And there's a couple different ways to go about this. I worked for a company called Gallup. I'm sure you've all heard of that company. We have a test called the Gallup Strengths Finder. I took that test many years ago. I still know my top 5: maximizer, strategic, relator, learner, focus. That was something that for the first time really in my career, did I have words that I could use to describe things that I was inherently good at. Now, these were things that they defined. So these were self-defined or defined by Gallup, what Gallup's considered strengths. They have 34 of them. The one that I would probably recommend now is DISC. DISC is the one I probably got the most out of. It's a really great tool. It really categorizes you based on the traits that you have that are most dominant. It's kind of in like a circle shape. So I'm a DI, which means that I'm a very direct person, but I also pair well with others on teams. It was very, very insightful for me. You don't have to take a test like that either. You can ask yourself questions. What am I good at? What am I proficient at? What comes easy to me? A really great question to ask yourself is, when people come to me for advice, what are they typically asking me for advice on? Are they asking me for advice about relationships? Are they asking about organization? Are they asking about how to manage people? Or what is it that people come to me to help them solve their problems for? That is a very strong endorsement for a strength. And also asking other people, hey, you've managed me. What am I good at? Or asking even family members, what are things that you would say are strengths of mine that you would describe? Collecting that information so that what I think is a strength of mine is being validated through either some sort of test or feedback from others, but having a very clear understanding of what those strengths are, super important. Next slide, please. So values and strengths, we've outlined those things. The next piece to this is involving the passions that you have and the results that you've driven. So the first piece, these are things that empower and excite you. What am I passionate about? For me, that's education. For me, that's soccer. For me, that's leading teams and connecting with others. Those are things that keep me highly motivated. Those are things that keep me very engaged. And those are things that I deeply value. And when I'm having a tough day and I know I have class that night, that holds me over, because I know I'm going to go sit in a room with 20 young people and get to talk to them about things that I get really excited about in teaching. And those things, being driven from a highly motivated place, bring you enthusiasm, and it helps you get closer to your style. You're bringing together things that you care about, things that you're good at, and now things that really get you going. They're really things that drive your energy. And the other piece to this is start writing down the things that you've done. This is the resume part. This is the part where you say, I have achieved these things, and be specific. Prove yourself with the data. I always tell people, bore me with your facts. Bore me with all of your facts. Tell me the things that are true. Use those results that you've driven to further prove that you have capabilities as a leader. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we drive that through your career in a second, but be able to articulate that. Go back and look at your resume. I redo my resume, even though I'm not usually looking for work, every few years, just to revisit what has changed about me. If someone's out looking at this representation of mine, like LinkedIn, always keep your LinkedIn up to date, because it is really, really important that what people are reading about you is true. Even if you're not looking for a job, these are the things that I'm responsible for. These are the things that I've driven. That's something that I highly recommend investing some time and energy in. I think we have a question.
Yeah, this question came from Rebecca, and Rebecca says, I'm managing a team of coworkers that are all older than me. They have no drive or goals, total clock punchers. How have you learned to motivate?
Oh, I've been there. I've definitely been there. That's hard. I'm going to be honest with you. Motivation is tough. I think when you're in a team, you've got to find things that team has in common. And if there's a lot of discrepancy, that can be really challenging. So are there things within that office that you have in common? Something, even if it's a sports team, like anything that you can have that becomes a common thread. I'm a relator, so I need to have something with someone to connect with them. I'm very outgoing, but typically I need that little carrot. Finding something that everybody can relate to is probably that first step. Getting people motivated, if they're not motivated intrinsically, has to then be something that comes externally. And that's got to be something you're feeding into that environment. So it's starting with baby steps. What do we have in common? What do we care about? And investing into that. So you start to build that relationship. I may not do it out of motivation, but maybe I would do it out of allegiance to my manager, or because I care about this person. So we may have to find a different tactic in that door, and just evaluate that culture, because over a long period of time, is that the best culture for you? Maybe, maybe not. So it's also something to keep in mind. If it's not a culture that's serving you too and helping you get better, then maybe it's not the place for you to be forever. So I'm not telling you to quit your job, but just reconsider the things around you do become part of you. So keep that in mind as well. Next slide, please. And then really this idea of becoming a student again. I'm a learner. That's something that I care about. I obviously in education, I would tell you that I've probably learned more in that process than what I've imparted on all of these young people. Look around you at the leadership space that you're in and try to identify what are some of the traits and values of leaders around you that you appreciate. You don't necessarily, with your strengths, you can't necessarily add something that's really in opposition to what you're good at, but you can certainly cultivate other skill sets as you go. What are words that you want people to say about you that maybe they don't today, but you feel like you could work at that? Getting mentors, reading things. I love podcasts and books, but look around at the space around you and identify be specific. I want to be a more empathetic person, or I want to be better with numbers. So I'm going to take a class on that, or I want to get better, whatever that is, be very specific about it. And then set apart or set out to actually accomplish that. Be very deliberate about that. Next slide, please. And then find where you can contribute. This is the biggest thing. So asking, what does my organization need from me? So once I've got this framework of, I know what I value, I can articulate that. I've identified strengths that I have. I'm very clear on what is motivating me and the passions that I have underlying that I can incorporate either in my job or external to my job. I know what results I can drive, and I'm starting to identify other places where I want to grow. Then go back to your business and say, what can I do? Like, what are goals that this organization has? What gaps exist? Where can I make a meaningful impact in the next 12 months, in the next 3 months, in the next 5 years? Really start to understand within your organization or your industry or your field, what is missing and what is needed. Next slide, please. Because once I know that, then I can start to claim it. I can say, listen, this is who I am. I'm embodying the things about me that I've taken a lot of time and energy in outlining. I'm very big on reflecting on this stuff. Reflect on the things that you gained from this. Embrace your unique strengths. Embrace your values and your passions. They're yours, and you should really have those things. Now that you've kind of done all this work, you should be pretty proud of what you've put together. And then aligning your actions and decisions with your authentic self. When you make those decisions, knowing that it's coming from this place that is so authentically you, it's so effortless once you get to that piece of it, and really accepting who you are. Like, who I have found is a really awesome person, and I'm really proud of that. Let that build your self-confidence. Let that be something that you're really proud of, because it is wholly and completely who you are. And then seek opportunities to brag about it. Tell people about it. This is one of the things I tell women all the time. Brag about the things that you've done that you should be proud of, because people need to hear it. People need to hear those things about you. And we as women are not as likely to do that. And we've got to change that narrative. Next slide, please. Uncovering your brand does require time and effort and dedication, and it is ongoing. This is an ongoing process. But I do believe that once you've accomplished it, it really does empower you, because you've got this very clear vision of who you are, what you're good at, what you can accomplish, and you can start to put yourself into moments where that can shine. You can get very deliberate about the types of companies that you want to work for, about the types of teams that you want to lead, about the types of things that you want to say, I did these things when I worked here. Be really proud of that. And I think that going through this process helps you to get there. I think I might have one more. I think I have one more slide. Yes, my all-important question slide. And I do think that there was a question that I missed. So I want to be mindful of my time here.
Let's see, go through them. So I think I got all the ones in the chat, but just as a reminder, and yes, I also want to be mindful of time. If anybody would like to ask a live question, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask a live question. But thank you so much for your presentation this afternoon.
Sure. It's always a little like I'm in a public library in northern Minnesota. I'm on vacation with my family, so I could hear people sort of wandering in and out. So this is not my office. This is a very gracious spot that they granted me for the day. So, but yes, I very much appreciated the opportunity. I'm very, very passionate about this. If you do want to get in touch with me or take a look at my blog, I do talk a lot about leadership, but certainly I just appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of women. The fact that you're here says that you care about yourself and your career and developing yourself, and that's huge unto itself. So just congratulations for showing up for yourself. That is, honest to goodness, the most important thing. And do it every day because you're worth it.
And I'm going to post the link to Carrie's blog in the chat again. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.